Welcome once again to another Friday previous to the Grand Prix of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, sponsored by Aramco. Another night race. Echo, they say. Anyway, this is the third edition, if I'm not mistaken. The first one was in 2021, I think. There has been some changes done on the track for safety. They also have moved their zone, and I think still another perhaps not so exciting Grand Prix. Who knows? Let's see how the weekend goes. Anyway, let's start as usual with some quick news. As I mentioned, they moved the DRS from places. Before, the main straight, which is this one, the DRS detection zone used to be here. So in this kind of area, where, by the way, as you know, it's a fast racetrack, it's a fast street racetrack, dangerous, because crashes against the wall at a high speed, and because there's a lot of, like, let's say, corners and stuff, perhaps somebody coming from behind might not see you. So, as usual, safety car risk is kind of high in this kind of racetracks. Anyway, we saw in several years, like the Hamilton Verstappen thing or the Leclerc Verstappen thing, right? Fighting here, letting the other one go before the DRS detection line, braking in the middle of the straight to try to, I don't know, get the DRS for the main straight, which is kind of long. The DRS can be a dangerous game, right? So the FIA has reviewed this, and they decided that in order to avoid these kind of games, they will move the DRS detection zone from here to somewhere here, right? Well, yes and no. I mean, still, like, you can let the other driver pass to try to get the DRS in the main straight, right? It makes not so many sense. Let's see how it goes. I don't think it will work, but anyway, maybe you will have no more of this kind of silly games on track, which was one of the main spectacles of this Grand Prix. So anyway, FIA destroying F1 once again. Mercedes lack of pace. Lewis Hamilton. We all know that we saw Lewis Hamilton complaining about Mercedes and Toto Wolff not being very happy about it. And rumors of the silly season, which are starting quite soon already, stating that Hamilton might be looking to have a move from Mercedes to perhaps Ferrari, which I deem it a little bit unlikely that Ferrari will let go one of their drivers to get the almost retired driver to try to win the 8th title. Anyway, there is no pace in the Mercedes, right? Hamilton was saying that last year, in 2022, Mercedes' biggest weak point was the main straight speed. They were very draggy. They had no speed, and in the corners they were not fast either. Like they were losing time everywhere. This year, apparently, they gained some speed in the straight lines, right? But they have problems in the corners, especially in corners where the rear of the car is needed, the traction, the push, right? To get the grip from the tires without destroying them as well. So he says that he said that the Grand Prix of Bahrain, they were losing 1.5 seconds per lap, more or less, saying that Red Bull was not pushing as much as they could. Obviously, if they are so superior, why would you destroy your car and engine and all the other components so you can penalize further in the season? Not really, right? So he says that the real pace of Red Bull and the real difference between the pace in Bahrain between Red Bull and Mercedes was 1.5 seconds per lap during the race. So Mercedes have to improve. He's not the only one saying something like this. Russell also said the same thing. Like, Mercedes has more than a couple of weak points that they have to improve. Don't know if it's going to be because of the zero pod or not, but anyway, looks like Mercedes is not doing very well. They are behind Aston Martin, Ferrari, and Red Bull. The penalty system is reviewed. We all saw that last year Pierre Gasly had 10 points penalty, as you can see in the screen, in the picture. With 12-point penalty, you would be banned from the next race. And these penalties were applied if you had like a pit lane speeding penalty, or an accident, of course, track limit, or over abuse, let's call it. Like anything that had a penalty on you would have a point system penalty. Of course, Pierre Gasly mentioned last year that he was going to speak with the FIA because he deemed it very stupid that, for example, abusing the limits of the track, for example, in not street racetracks and convenient racetracks, would have a point system penalty. Why would you penalize somebody who's not doing anything, right? Like you get a penalty during the race, or like the speed lane over speeding, right? Why would you put points on that and then penalize somebody for that? So the FIA actually made a deal. They revised the system, and now they came to terms that only dangerous driving actions will have a point system, will have points applied to the license revoking thing, right? Remember, there's 12 points, so if you do some dangerous driving, you will get the points reduced according to how they deem it, more points or less points. This is why, for example, Hülkenberg and Ocon, who had a lot of like a track limits and over speeding and these kind of things, right? They will not have these points applied to their license, so they still have all the points, right? And as you can see in the picture, this is from 2022. This is how many points at the end of the season each driver had consumed. Pierre Gasly had 10 points. Lance Stroll, and you can see Charles Leclerc is the last one, Max Verstappen, and blah, blah, blah. So, and here, as you can see, kind of interesting, they said when the points are going to be dropped. So Pierre Gasly will have everything in May 22nd, right? April 9, March 27. So anyway, just a curiosity about the point system. And we all saw the news a couple of days ago that Charles Leclerc was going to have a grid penalty, which is extremely not good news, and that this developed into some escalating news about people in Ferrari back in Maranello being very unhappy with how things are being happening. Race number 1, and Charles Leclerc already has to penalize because of the ECU unit being unsavable. Of course, this is horrible news if you are trying to challenge for the title, which, by the way, I honestly don't think any Ferrari is able to challenge for the title this year. Leclerc has already a grid penalty of 10 positions in a street racetrack, which is difficult to overtake. And also he had absolute 0 in his points for the championship in Bahrain. So first 2 races, already lots of difficulties, and the Red Bulls are far ahead in race pace. So I think Ferrari is not going to win this title. Maybe they might win a couple of races by the end of the season, but I don't think Leclerc is going to win this year, not this year. And of course, Carlos Sainz, not even close. We all saw what happened in Bahrain with Carlos Sainz suffering and losing a lot of pace with Charles Leclerc. So again, really bad news for Ferrari. Let's see how things develop, because Ferrari are a team that usually get very nervous when things start happening. So this is a test to see if Frédéric Vasseur can be the second Jean Todt and manage things with calmness, right? And bring Ferrari back to its glory. Anyway, now time for the race. This is the track layout. As you can see, 3 sectors, 2 DRS zones. 3, sorry. So here you go. This is there was DRS detection zone. This one has been moved to here, by the way, so people don't have the fights. As I mentioned before, there is another DRS zone here, which is detected here, and apparently they added this small thing for here, which I deem it very stupid, because you cannot overtake in all this area. There are so many tricky fast corners. It's very dangerous. It's very narrow. There's no space, so I think this DRS zone is kind of useless. You could leave this one and this one, because in the rest of the racetrack, as you can see, very cornery, very fast, and very narrow. No overtaking chances, which by the way, I think that they moved the wall in this part. It used to be really close, and I think we saw Mick Schumacher crashing here last year in this corner, destroying the car. One of the reasons why he got fired from Haas. I think they moved the wall a little bit to the right to have some space of safety. Let's see how that works, if it can have some overtakings or not, which I don't think so. We have the weather for the weekend, which is going to be extremely sunny. Of course, nothing else could be expected from a Arabic country with their weather, right? We will have around 25 degrees for the race, 25 degrees for the qualifying, and for the rest, it's going to be slightly hotter. We have the race conditions in FP2. And this is the racetrack information. Traction 2, so you don't need a lot of traction, which means that teams that suffered with the rear of the car, such as Mercedes, will have a better chance in this racetrack. Braking, I mentioned there is this fast racetrack. You don't have big hairpins, so it means that you don't destroy the brakes as you might do it in Canada, for example, right? Track Evolution 4, yes, it's a street racetrack, not being used in the rest of the year almost. So as the cars are on the track, it will get some rubber on it, and it should be getting much faster, same like Monaco, for example. Asphalt Grip 3, like I mentioned, it's a street racetrack. Usually street racetracks do not have a lot of grip because they are not being used during the whole year. It's a fast racetrack, but as you can see here, there's not a lot of lateral G forces, let's say. They are not like big spoony corners, which means that even though it's fast because it's kind of a straight, right? Tire stress 3, yeah, it's fast. There's big corners, but not many stress applied on the tires, like I mentioned. Like, for example, these first sections, very slow, not so quick. This one is quick. All this section is very quick and not so quick. So if you don't have high-speed corners, which you do kind of, but like they're not very high-speedy, like for example you will have in Malaysia, which you don't have it in the calendar right now. Anyway, you don't have a lot of tire asphalt. Asphalt abrasion 2, usually street racetracks do not have a lot of tire asphalt abrasions, so the tire degradation, the teams that suffered from tire degradation like Ferrari or other teams like Haas, for example, will see benefited from this. And downforce, you don't need a lot of wing. It's a high-speed racetrack, but not high-speed corners, so not a lot. And C2, C3, C4, which is kind of like in the middle of everything. And if you're more into freaky stuff, you can see the camber of the tires expected, the expected pressures for the tires for the race, right? So as per usual, let's go with the prediction. I think everybody can expect something like this, right? Max Verstappen winning, Max Verstappen pole position. I think the Red Bull are quite ahead everybody else. Bahrain was kind of a little bit different, but I think the Red Bull is the car to beat this year, so I think they will have another one too, with the Aston Martin going to the front, to the podium as well. I realized I didn't put Charles Leclerc anywhere, which is kind of interesting. Starting with a 10 grid position penalty. He should be going forward, but on the other hand, also, there are expected to be accidents, and you know, when you start in the back, you might have an accident somewhere. So I should have put Charles Leclerc, but I forgot it. Anyway, this is gonna be more or less how it will look like. Alonso third, Carlos Sainz saving, I would say. Ferrari in the fourth position, Lewis Hamilton fifth, Lance Stroll sixth. His hands are still not recovered, so I think it's gonna be something like that. George Russell, I think the Alpines are gonna be there. And in the 10th position, I will put Valtteri Bottas, saving the Alfa Romeo once again. We saw them scoring points in Bahrain. The Williams perhaps could be there, seeing that Williams like to have some straight line speed. So perhaps Albon could be there once again. I know for sure the Alfa Tauris and the Haas are not going to be there. So let's see how everything goes. Let's not forget one thing, by the way. Hülkenberg went to Q3 in Bahrain, but then because of tire degradation, he was not able to push during the race. Same problem that Ferrari had, for example, right? If the tire degradation is not so high in this racetrack, perhaps the Haas could be trying to fight for points once again, either Hülkenberg or either Magnussen. So I think the 10th position, if there is an accident, of course, because if not, we already have 5 teams that will score the points all the time. The battle for the points will be among, I think, Williams, Alfa Romeo, and perhaps Haas. Anyway, this is my prediction, more or less. I'm expecting Ferrari to have some issues again with Leclerc. Let's see how that goes. And quiz time. Let's see if you paid attention during the thing. Which driver will get a 10 position penalty for the Sunday Grand Prix, which I already spoke about? Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda, will have Max Verstappen, or Charles Leclerc. I think the answer is very obvious. I repeat it a couple of times during the episode. If you know it, put it in the comments. If you're not, if you think I should add another kind of section to the thing, also add in the comments. I'm also always eager to receive positive, constructive comments. If you have hates, I'm also okay with that. Anyway, let's enjoy the weekend as much as we can, and as per usual, take it easy, and see you on Sunday after the race.